My insane mother-in-law lied to my whole family that I was forcing my daughter to be trans, then plotted her kidnapping. So I exposed her psychotic obsession for the world to see. My mother-in-law thinks the world revolves around her. At our wedding, she wore a long ivory dress, which basically looked white, with a veil to match. It wasn't even surprising because I had already accepted that my husband's family was dysfunctional as heck. I still remember the first time I visited his two brothers, Terrence and Marcus, at their shared apartment. It was 90 degrees outside, but for some reason they had the AC cranked up so high it was literally 40 degrees. Hey, do you mind if I turn down the air conditioning? Oh wow! So we let you into our home and now you think you can make demands? Terrence yelled at the top of his lungs. Meanwhile, Marcus clenched his fists so hard they went white. But compared to his mother, Terrence and Marcus were practically gems. My husband introduced me at Marcus's birthday. Terrence couldn't make it. Everything was going fine until she, completely unprompted, started sharing all of Terrence's dirty little secrets, and that he needs to lose weight. But then when she was alone with Terrence, she'd tell him the same thing about Marcus. I guess it was her way of making sure she stayed the center of attention or something. So this, combined with the white dress at my wedding fiasco, taught me that my mother-in-law was a poop stirrer. But I still wanted our children to have a relationship with their grandmother. So when it was time for my gender reveal party, I invited her. Well, kinda. The party started at 7:30 p.m., but I told her that it started at 9 LOL. But somehow, she still managed to F everything up. I cut the cake as soon as she walked in the door. It was blue frosting. I immediately felt my face light up, and my husband took my hand and twirled me around. I expected to see everyone just as happy or excited as me. Instead, they all had forced smiles on their faces, like the ones the airplane hostesses give you. I thought I was imagining it, but then when I opened the gifts, all of them were extremely male-oriented. Baby boy sneakers, dinosaur toys, toy trucks. Call it maternal instinct. But I knew my mother-in-law was behind this. So while everyone was distracted with the Wingstop bundle we ordered, me and my husband pulled her aside. "I hope you're here to thank me," she immediately blurted out. "What are you talking about?" my husband asked with a sigh. "I was the one who found out it was a boy, and now you have all the right gifts. You've had your entire life to be the center of attention. Can't you just give us one night?" My husband's words stopped me in my tracks. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's face turned completely red, and she glared at me like the whole thing was my fault. My husband didn't say anything else, just grabbed her shoes and coat, handed them to her, and opened the front door for her to leave. There were no other complications with the pregnancy, so instead of getting another ultrasound, we decided to just save the money to build Owen's room. And by we, I mean my husband, because my feet had swelled so much that walking was very uncomfortable. He painted the room blue, bought shelves, a cot, Spider-Man lights from IKEA, and put them all together by himself without me asking or lifting a finger. To all the girls reading this, please take this as your sign to never settle. Fast forward to a few weeks later when the baby was finally born, and a wave of anger boiled my blood, because as the pregnancy hormones pumped through my veins and exhaustion flooded my head, I was forced to deal with the fact that my mother-in-law had lied to us. Our baby Owen was actually a baby Bella. I had given birth to a baby girl. My mother-in-law was in the waiting room waiting to come into the birthing room, but my husband never called her in. I heard him whisper shout, "What the F is wrong with you? I spent dozens of hours and not to mention a shot ton of money preparing a boy's room." She interrupted him to cackle. It was so ugly and loud, I actually thought the glass from the window was about to crack. "Why are you so serious, Wern?" she yelled. Even the nurses were giving her dirty looks. My husband called over a security guard and asked him to escort her out. And I guess he caught the bad vibes because he actually listened. When my husband came back, he promised we would go NC with her, and baby Bella would never have the displeasure of meeting her. The first few days were hard, but somehow my mother-in-law made them even harder. Because one morning I woke up to a knock on the door. It wasn't my mother-in-law. It was CPS. She had an AirPod in one ear blasting Cardi B while chewing gum with her mouth wide open. She pushed past me and made a beeline straight to Bella's room. "Yep, just as I thought," she said while looking around. "Ma'am, we got an anonymous complaint of you forcing your baby daughter to be transgender. Do you have a next line of contact of where your baby girl could go?" I rubbed my eyes in disbelief. Tears streamed down my face as the absurdity of the situation hit me. My shirt was stained with milk and spit up, and I hadn't showered in 2 days. The last thing I needed was this woman questioning my ability to care for my child. Luckily, after a lot of convincing and showing this woman that there was nothing wrong with how I was parenting my kid, CPS confirmed there was no issue and left our home very quickly. My husband and I decided we couldn't risk staying near his mother anymore. Within weeks, we'd found a new home far enough away that she hopefully wouldn't track us down. Moving was exhausting with a newborn, but we knew it was necessary for Bella's safety and our sanity. Once the last box was unpacked, we vowed to rebuild our life with stronger boundaries, hoping distance could protect our family. The first few months in our new place were blissful. Bella was thriving, my husband had found a better job with the move, and I was starting to feel like myself again. The new house had large windows that let in streams of sunlight, warming the hardwood floors where Bella would lay on her playmat, kicking her little legs excitedly. We'd chosen a neighborhood with good schools, friendly neighbors, and most importantly, no connections to my mother-in-law. But peace never lasts when you have someone like her in your life, even at a distance. It started with a Facebook message from Marcus. "Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you guys in a while." Innocent enough, but something felt off. Marcus had never been the checking in type. His message sat in my inbox for hours before I finally replied with a brief update and some photos of Bella. A week later, Terrence called my husband, furious. They talked for almost an hour, mostly about sports and work. Nothing about mother-in-law, nothing about our move. Just, Normal brother stuff. Too normal. The forced casualness in my husband's voice as he discussed the latest football game made my skin crawl. Do you think she put them up to it? I asked after he hung up. My husband shrugged, his shoulders tense as he set his phone down on the kitchen counter. Maybe, but they're still my brothers. I didn't push it. Family was complicated, and I understood his reluctance to cut off everyone, but I couldn't shake the feeling we were being watched, assessed, located. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up every time I checked the mail or took Bella for a walk in her stroller. My suspicions were confirmed when a package arrived addressed to baby Owen. No return address. Inside was a blue blanket with a note. For my grandson. Grandma loves you. I immediately threw it in the trash, my hands shaking. The soft fabric felt like a threat as I stuffed it deep into the garbage can, burying it under coffee grounds and vegetable peelings. How did she know where we lived? We're not leaving, I told my husband that night. She's trying to find us. He nodded grimly, his jaw set in determination as he checked that all the windows were locked. I'll talk to Marcus and Terrence, make it clear they can't share our address with her. But it was too late. The next day, I was pushing Bella's stroller through the grocery store when I felt someone watching me. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I navigated through the aisles, the wheels of the stroller squeaking slightly on the linoleum floor. I turned down the cereal aisle and there she was, mother-in-law, standing at the other end, staring directly at us. My blood ran cold. She wore a smug smile, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against a box of Cheerios as she watched me. I turned the stroller around so fast I knocked over a display of granola bars. The boxes clattered to the floor, drawing stares from other shoppers as I frantically maneuvered away. I abandoned my half-filled cart and practically ran to the exit, fumbling with my keys as I strapped Bella into her car seat. My heart pounded in my chest and sweat beaded on my forehead, despite the cool air conditioning of the store. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw mother-in-law walking calmly to her car, smiling. She wasn't even trying to follow us. She didn't need to. She'd made her point. She knew where we lived. The realization sat like a stone in my stomach as I drove home, constantly checking my rearview mirror. I called my husband in tears. She's here. She found us. That night, we installed security cameras and changed our locks. The metallic scraping sound of the locksmith's tools provided little comfort as I rocked Bella, trying to keep her calm despite my own anxiety. My husband called both his brothers, but neither admitted to giving out our address. Either they were lying or mother-in-law had other sources. The next morning, I found a business card slipped under our door. A family lawyer named Corey Daniels. On the back was a handwritten note. I specialize in restraining orders and grandparents' rights cases. First consultation free. The card was cream-colored and expensive looking, with embossed lettering that caught the morning light. I hadn't even considered that mother-in-law might try to use the legal system against us. The thought made me sick. My stomach churned as I handed the card to my husband, who examined it with a frown deepening the lines on his forehead. We met with Corey the following day. He was younger than I expected, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. His office smelled of leather and coffee, with diplomas hanging neatly on the wall behind his organized desk. Based on what you've told me, she doesn't have a case for grandparents' rights, he assured us. But that doesn't mean she won't try. And given her history of manipulation and false reports, we should be prepared. His fingers tapped efficiently on his keyboard as he took notes of our situation. We filed for a restraining order that afternoon. The process was straightforward but emotionally draining. I had to relive every moment of mother-in-law's interference, from the white dress at our wedding to the CPS nightmare. My voice cracked several times as I described the events, and my husband squeezed my hand supportively. The hearing is set for next month, Corey explained. Until then, document everything. Every call, every package, every sighting. He handed us a thick folder of paperwork, the weight of it somehow representing the burden we now carried. For 2 weeks, things were quiet, too quiet. I jumped at every knock on the door, scrutinized every car that drove past our house twice. My husband installed a doorbell camera and motion sensor lights. We were living in a fortress of our own making. The constant vigilance was exhausting, leaving dark circles under my eyes and tension in my shoulders. Then the letters started coming. Not to our house, that would violate the temporary restraining order, but to my workplace, my husband's office, even our pediatrician. Each one claimed we were unfit parents, that we were confusing our daughter about her gender, that we needed intervention. The envelopes were all the same, plain white with typed addresses, no return information. My boss, Tatum, called me into their office after receiving one. The smell of their jasmine tea filled the small space as I sat nervously in the chair across from their desk. I know this is bull, they said, handing me the sealed envelope, but I thought you should know it's happening. Their kind eyes showed concern as they pushed the letter toward me. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a lengthy letter detailing my postpartum psychosis and how I was projecting gender dysphoria onto my infant daughter. The paper crinkled in my hands as I read the vicious accusations. It was signed, "A concerned grandmother. She's trying to get me fired," I whispered. Tatum shook their head, their silver earrings catching the light as they moved. "Not happening on my watch, but you might want to give your other references a heads up." I called everyone I could think of. My former employers, our landlord, Bella's daycare. Most had already received similar letters. Some had thrown them away without reading. Others were concerned enough to call me first. The daycare director, Brenda, was particularly upset. "We've had someone calling daily asking about Bella's care," she admitted. "At first, we thought it was you checking in, but the voice was older." My stomach dropped, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. "What did you tell her?" I asked, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Nothing specific," Brenda assured me, "but she was very convincing. Said she was the emergency contact while you were having surgery." I thanked her for her honesty and immediately updated all of Bella's emergency contacts, adding passwords and explicit instructions not to release information to anyone claiming to be grandma. The restraining order hearing couldn't come fast enough. In the meantime, mother-in-law escalated. She created a Facebook group called Save Owen, with a profile picture of a blue balloon. The description read, "Supporting parents of gender-confused children. Special prayer request for my grandson Owen, whose parents are forcing him to live as a girl named Bella." The group had over 200 members within days. The blue light of my computer screen illuminated my face as I scrolled through the posts, each one more outrageous than the last. My sister found it first and called me in tears. "It's horrible," she said. "She's posting baby pictures. I don't know how she got them," and asking people to pray for divine intervention. Her voice cracked as she described the comments section, filled with people offering to help in various ways. I reported the group immediately, but Facebook's response was frustratingly slow. "We've reviewed the reported content and found it doesn't violate our community standards." The automated message stared back at me from my screen, adding to my growing sense of helplessness. The day before our hearing, mother-in-law made her boldest move yet. She showed up at Bella's daycare during pickup time, introducing herself to other parents as Bella's grandmother. I arrived to find her holding court in the lobby, showing phone pictures to a cluster of mothers. The cheerful primary colors of the daycare walls created a surreal backdrop for her performance. "This is him at the hospital," she was saying. "They've been forcing this girl act on him since birth." She swiped through photos on her phone, her red nail polish flashing as she gestured dramatically. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I marched straight up to her, Bella's car seat in one hand, my phone recording in the other. My footsteps echoed on the linoleum floor, drawing attention from everyone in the lobby. "What do you think you're doing?" I demanded. She turned, feigning surprise. Her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the malicious gleam in her eyes. "Oh, there's my grandson's mother. We were just talking about you." The other mothers looked between us, confused. One of them, a woman named Aria with twin boys, stepped slightly away from mother-in-law. Her expression shifted from interest to concern as she observed the tension between us. "You need to leave," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Now." Mother-in-law smiled sweetly, adjusting her designer scarf with practiced nonchalance. "I'm just getting to know the other grandparents. Is that a crime?" The fluorescent lights highlighted the artificial sweetness of her smile. "You're violating a temporary restraining order," I replied, "and you're lying to these people." She laughed that same ugly laugh I remembered from the hospital. The sound bounced off the colorful walls of the daycare entrance. "Am I? Or are you the one lying? To yourself? To everyone? To this poor baby boy?" She reached toward Bella's car seat, but I pulled it away quickly, the plastic handle digging into my palm. I turned to the other parents. "This woman has been harassing us since our daughter was born. She called CPS with false accusations. She's stalking us. Please don't believe anything she tells you." My voice trembled slightly, but I held my ground, meeting the eyes of each parent in turn. Most looked uncomfortable, but Aria stepped forward. "I think you should go," she told mother-in-law. "This isn't the place for family disputes." Her twins watched wide-eyed from their stroller, sensing the tension in the room. Mother-in-law's face hardened. "You're all being manipulated," she hissed. Then she turned to me. "This isn't over. That boy deserves better." Her perfectly manicured finger pointed at me accusingly before she turned on her heel. As she stormed out, I collapsed into a nearby chair, shaking. Brenda rushed over with a glass of water. The cool liquid soothed my dry throat as I tried to calm my racing heart. "I'm so sorry," she said. She said she was on the approved pickup list. When I went to check, she disappeared into the lobby. Aria sat beside me, the vinyl chair squeaking under her weight. "My mother-in-law is a piece of work too," she said gently. "Not this level, but I get it. We've got your back." Her warm hand on my shoulder provided more comfort than she could know. The support meant everything, but I still felt violated. Mother-in-law had infiltrated one of the few places I felt Bella was safe. The colorful handprints on the walls and cheerful music playing softly in the background now seemed like an inadequate shield against her determination. The hearing itself was anticlimactic. Mother-in-law showed up with her own lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit who tried to paint her as a concerned grandmother being alienated from her grandchild. The courtroom smelled of furniture polish and anxiety as we took our seats, the hard wooden benches uncomfortable under my tense muscles. "My client simply wants access to her grandson," he argued. "The parents are clearly struggling with acceptance of their child's biological sex." His voice echoed slightly in the high-ceilinged courtroom. Our lawyer, Corey, presented the evidence methodically. The CPS report, the Facebook group, the daycare incident, the letters to our employers. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, listened carefully. Her reading glasses perched on the end of her nose as she reviewed the documents. "Mrs. Jenkins," she finally said, addressing my mother-in-law directly, "do you understand that your grandchild is legally and medically female?" Mother-in-law sniffed, her shoulders stiffening under her tailored blazer. "Doctors make mistakes." She adjusted her pearl necklace, lifting her chin defiantly. "And do you understand that regardless of your personal beliefs, it is not your place to interfere with the parents' decisions?" The judge's voice was firm but patient, like she was explaining something to a stubborn child. "Someone has to protect that boy," mother-in-law insisted. Her voice carried across the quiet courtroom, making several people shift uncomfortably in their seats. The judge's expression hardened. "I'm granting the restraining order for a period of 3 years. You are to remain at least 500 feet from this family at all times. No contact, direct or indirect. No social media posts about them. No letters. No packages. Violation will result in criminal charges." The gavel came down with a sharp crack that seemed to punctuate the finality of her decision. Mother-in-law gasped dramatically. "You can't do this. I have rights." Her voice rose to a shrill pitch that made me wince. "Not to harass and stalk," the judge replied firmly. "This hearing is adjourned." Another crack of the gavel, and it was over. Outside the courtroom, my husband hugged me tightly. "It's over," he whispered. The scent of his cologne mixed with the subtle smell of courthouse dust as I leaned into his embrace. But I knew better. People like mother-in-law don't give up that easily. For a few weeks, things were quiet again. We stayed vigilant but tried to resume normal life. Bella started sitting up on her own. I returned to work part-time. My husband repainted the nursery in lavender with silver stars on the ceiling. The fresh paint smell lingered for days, a symbol of our new beginning. Then came the letter from Child and Family Services. Not CPS this time, but a different department. They were reviewing our case due to new information received. My heart sank as I read further. The official letterhead and formal language made the absurd accusations seem somehow more threatening. Someone had reported that we were medically transitioning our infant daughter by giving her hormones and puberty blockers. It was so absurd it would have been laughable if it weren't so terrifying. Bella was 6 months old. The idea that we were giving her any kind of gender affirming medical treatment was not just false but physically impossible. I looked at my daughter, happily gumming a teething ring in her bouncer, completely oblivious to the chaos swirling around her. Our lawyer was equally baffled. "This is a new low," Corey said, reading the letter. "But it's also easier to disprove. We'll get a statement from Bella's pediatrician confirming she's receiving normal infant care. Nothing more." His pen tapped against his legal pad as he made notes. Dr. Park was horrified when we explained the situation. Her usually calm demeanor gave way to visible outrage as she read the letter in her bright, child-friendly office. "Of course I'll write a letter," she said immediately. "This is medical misinformation at its worst." She typed furiously at her computer, her white coat rustling as she shifted in her chair. We submitted her statement along with Bella's complete medical records. The case was dismissed within days, but the damage was done. Once again, we'd been forced to defend our parenting, to prove we weren't harming our own child. The emotional toll was exhausting, leaving me with tension, headaches, and disrupted sleep. "She's getting desperate," my husband observed. "These accusations are getting more outlandish." He rubbed his tired eyes as he reviewed the latest documentation for our growing case file. I nodded, gently rocking Bella on my knee. Her soft baby smell and warm weight provided comfort amid the stress. "But they still trigger investigations. That's all she wants, to keep us under a microscope, to make us constantly look over our shoulders." The constant vigilance was wearing us down, exactly as mother-in-law intended. "We need to end this for good," he said firmly. The opportunity came in an unexpected way. My sister called one evening, her voice excited. "You won't believe this," she said. "Mother-in-law just applied for a job at my company. She doesn't know I work here. I use my married name professionally, but I saw her application come through the HR portal." The excitement in her voice made me sit up straighter, a glimmer of hope sparking for the first time in weeks. My mind raced. "Can you see what she put on her application?" I paced the kitchen as we talked, the phone pressed tightly to my ear. "Already checked," my sister replied. She listed her previous employer as Family Caregiving Services and claimed she was a private nanny for the past 5 years. Said she has a degree in early childhood education from State University. I nearly dropped the phone. She's never worked as a nanny, and she definitely doesn't have that degree. The ceramic tile felt cool under my bare feet as I processed this information. "Exactly," my sister said. "She's lying on her job application. That's fraud." For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. This wasn't just mother-in-law being manipulative or boundary crossing. This was something concrete, something provable, the kind of thing that could have real consequences. We consulted with Corey again. "It's not enough for criminal charges," he advised, "but it's definitely enough to report to the company and potentially any professional organizations she belongs to." His office felt like a sanctuary now, a place where we could fight back against mother-in-law's chaos. My sister made sure mother-in-law's application was flagged for verification. Sure enough, when the company called State University, they confirmed no one by her name had ever received a degree there. The job rejection was automatic, but we didn't stop there. We compiled evidence of all her false claims, the fake nanny experience, the non-existent degree, even her volunteer work at organizations that had no record of her. We sent the package to her current employer, a small accounting firm where she worked as an office manager. Within a week, she was let go. It felt like a small victory, but I knew it would only make her more desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. My husband received a call from Marcus, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Mom's been telling people you're abusing Bella," he said without preamble. "She showed up at my apartment last night with bruise photos she claims are from your house." The phone's speaker crackled slightly as Marcus spoke, his voice tight with tension. My husband put the call on speaker. "That's insane. We would never hurt Bella." His knuckles turned white as he gripped the phone, anger and disbelief warring on his face. "I know," Marcus replied. "The photos looked weird anyway. Too perfect, like makeup or something. But Terrence believes her. He's talking about calling authorities." My stomach churned, acid rising in my throat at the thought of another investigation. "Marcus, those photos are fake. Your mother is trying to get our daughter taken away again." There was a long pause, filled only with the sound of Marcus's breathing. "I believe you," he finally said. "After what happened at the hospital, I've been thinking a lot about how she's always played us against each other. I'm done with it." It was the first time either of his brothers had acknowledged mother-in-law's manipulative behavior, a small breakthrough, but significant. The tension in my shoulders eased slightly as I realized we might have an ally. "Would you be willing to put that in writing?" I asked carefully. "If she files another false report, having family members who can vouch for us would help." I held my breath, waiting for his response. "I'll do better than that," Marcus said. "I'll tell you what she's planning. She's been staying with Terrence since she lost her job. They talk about you guys constantly." That night, Marcus texted us. "She's planning to call in an anonymous tip about bruises tomorrow. Says she has photos to send them." The blue light of the phone screen illuminated my husband's worried face as we read the message together. We immediately called Dr. Park, who agreed to see Bella first thing in the morning. She documented Bella's perfect, unblemished skin with photos and detailed notes, then wrote a statement confirming there were no signs of abuse whatsoever. The examination room was bright and cheerful, with cartoon animals on the walls that Bella stared at in fascination, while Dr. Park carefully checked every inch of her. When CPS showed up that afternoon, a different worker this time, thankfully, we were prepared. We showed them Dr. Park's documentation from that morning, plus our security camera footage showing Bella happy and healthy over the past week. The worker seemed embarrassed. Her clipboard rested unused in her lap as she reviewed our evidence. We have to investigate all reports, she explained apologetically, but this case will be closed immediately. I'm noting in the file that this appears to be harassment. The afternoon sun streamed through our living room windows, highlighting the dust motes in the air as we concluded yet another unnecessary investigation. As she left, she paused at the door. Off the record, you might want to consider moving out of state. Some people won't stop until they've exhausted every possible avenue. Her words hung in the air long after she'd gone. Her words haunted me. Move out of state? Start over again? The thought was exhausting. We'd already uprooted our lives once. Bella deserved stability, not constant running. I watched her sleeping peacefully in her crib that night, her tiny chest rising and falling, completely unaware of the chaos surrounding her. The next day, I received a text from an unknown number. Check your email. Marcus. In my inbox was a video file. I clicked play with shaking hands. It showed mother-in-law sitting at Terrence's kitchen table, carefully applying purple and yellow makeup to a doll's arm. The kitchen light cast harsh shadows on her concentrated face as she worked. These colors look most realistic, she was saying. The lighting has to be right too. Child services looks for certain patterns. She dabbed at the doll's plastic skin with a makeup sponge, creating what looked disturbingly like bruises. Terrence's voice came from off-camera. Are you sure this is necessary? What if they find out the photos are fake? His uncertainty was clear even though he wasn't visible in the frame. They won't, mother-in-law replied confidently. And even if they do, it doesn't matter. Each investigation takes a toll. They'll slip up eventually, or get tired of fighting. Then Owen will come live with us and we'll raise him right. The casual way she discussed her plans sent chills down my spine. I forwarded the video to Corey immediately. His response came within minutes. This is exactly what we needed. Criminal harassment, filing false reports, attempting to defraud government agencies. Call me. The relief was so overwhelming I had to sit down, my legs suddenly weak. We filed charges that afternoon. Mother-in-law was arrested at Terrence's apartment the next day. The news hit local papers. Grandmother arrested for filing false child abuse claims in custody dispute. The articles didn't use our names to protect Bella's privacy, but they detailed mother-in-law's campaign of harassment, including the faked photos and CPS calls. Seeing it in print made it seem both more real and more absurd. Terrence called my husband, furious. How could you do this to Mom? She was just trying to help. His voice was so loud I could hear it from across the room. Help who? My husband shot back. She was trying to take our daughter away with fake abuse claims. That's not help. That's criminal. His voice was steady, but I could see the pain in his eyes as he argued with his brother. Marcus, on the other hand, seemed relieved. It had to stop, he told us. I should have spoken up sooner. The regret in his voice was palpable. Mother-in-law was released on bail pending trial. Her conditions included no contact with us and wearing an ankle monitor to ensure she stayed the required distance away. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. We weren't completely safe yet. The trial was still ahead, but at least the immediate threat had been neutralized. I actually slept through the night for the first time since Bella was born, not from exhaustion, but from a tentative sense of security. But mother-in-law had never been one to follow rules. Despite the ankle monitor and bail conditions, she found ways to continue her campaign. 3 days after her release, I was putting groceries in my car when a woman approached me in the parking lot. The shopping cart rattled as I pushed it aside to make room for Bella's car seat. Excuse me, she said. Are you Bella's mom? I tensed immediately, my hand instinctively moving to shield Bella from the stranger. Who's asking? The keys between my fingers could serve as a weapon if needed, a trick I'd learned years ago but never expected to use. I'm Amber, she said, smiling warmly. I'm a friend of your mother-in-law. She's told me so much about little Owen. My blood ran cold. The parking lot suddenly seemed too exposed, too public. His name is Bella, and you need to leave me alone. I tried to keep my voice steady as I secured Bella in her car seat, positioning myself between her and this woman. Her smile didn't falter. I understand you're confused right now. We all want what's best for the child. Perhaps we could talk somewhere private. The suggestion sent alarm bells ringing in my head. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911. My mother-in-law is under court order not to contact me directly or through others. That includes you. Leave now or I'm calling the police. My finger hovered over the emergency call button. Amber's expression hardened. You can't keep that little boy from his family forever. We're watching. We're waiting. And we'll be there when you slip up. She walked away before I could respond, disappearing into a waiting car. The silver sedan pulled away slowly, as if to emphasize her point about watching us. I was shaking so badly I could barely drive home. When I arrived, I found a business card tucked under our windshield wiper. Amber Torres, family advocate, with a phone number, and the slogan, protecting children's true identities. Mother-in-law hadn't given up. She'd simply changed tactics, recruiting others to her cause. The card trembled in my hand as I realized the extent of her network. I called my husband immediately, my voice shaking as I described the encounter with Amber. She knew Bella's name, I said, clutching the card, and she called her Owen. This woman is working with your mother. I paced the driveway, too afraid to go inside until my husband came home. My husband was silent for a moment. Take a photo of the card and send it to Corey. This is a direct violation of the restraining order. I did as he suggested, then sat in my car for several minutes, trying to calm my racing heart. When I finally made it inside, my husband was already on the phone with our lawyer. Corey says this is exactly what we need, he told me after hanging up. Mother-in-law is using proxies to harass us, which violates her bail conditions. He pulled me into a hug, his solid presence grounding me when everything else felt chaotic. But how do we prove Amber is working with her? I asked, unloading groceries with trembling hands. The milk carton slipped from my grasp, nearly spilling across the kitchen floor. We don't have to. The burden of proof is on her to show she's not violating the order. That night, we installed additional security cameras and changed our routines. I started using different grocery stores, varying my routes to and from work, and having my husband handle daycare pickup whenever possible. The constant vigilance was exhausting, but necessary. The next morning, Corey called with news. The judge has scheduled an emergency hearing about the bail violation. We need you both there tomorrow at 9 a.m. His confident tone provided some reassurance as we prepared for yet another confrontation. In court, mother-in-law appeared with her lawyer, looking appropriately somber in a navy pantsuit. When she saw us, her expression remained carefully neutral, but I caught the flash of anger in her eyes. The familiar courtroom felt smaller somehow, the tension making the air thick and difficult to breathe. The judge reviewed the evidence, the business card, my statement about the parking lot encounter, and a surprising addition, security footage from the grocery store showing Amber approaching me, then returning to a car where mother-in-law was waiting in the passenger seat. The grainy black and white video clearly showed both women in conversation. Your Honor, mother-in-law's lawyer argued, my client was simply getting a ride from a friend. She had no knowledge of any conversation. He adjusted his tie nervously, perhaps sensing the weakness of his argument. The judge wasn't buying it. The footage clearly shows Ms. Torres returning to the vehicle and having an animated conversation with your client. This is a clear violation of the no-contact order. Her tone left no room for argument. Mother-in-law's bail was revoked. As the bailiff approached to take her into custody, she finally lost her composure. You can't do this to me, she shrieked, pointing at us. They're the ones who should be in jail. They're abusing that boy. Her perfectly styled hair came loose as she struggled against the bailiff's grip. The judge banged her gavel. Remove her from my courtroom. The sharp sound echoed through the room as mother-in-law was led away, still shouting about saving Owen. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. This woman was so consumed by her delusion that she was willing to destroy her relationship with her son, her freedom, and her reputation. The cost of her obsession seemed impossibly high. Outside the courthouse, Marcus was waiting. How did it go? My husband filled him in while I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Brenda at the daycare. My stomach dropped. I called back immediately. Brenda, is everything okay with Bella? My voice rose with panic as I waited for her response. Everything's fine now, she assured me. But we had an incident this morning. A woman named Amber tried to pick up Bella. She had fake ID claiming to be you. The blood drained from my face as I imagined what might have happened. What happened? I gripped the phone tightly, my knuckles turning white. Our new security protocols worked. When she couldn't provide the password, we refused to release Bella and called the police. They're reviewing our security footage now. I thanked her profusely, then relayed the information to my husband and Marcus. Relief and horror battled within me. Relief that Bella was safe. Horror that they had tried to take her. This is getting out of hand, Marcus said, his face pale. Mom's created some kind of network. He ran his hand through his hair, clearly disturbed by the escalation. We need to find out how big this network is, my husband replied grimly. That afternoon, we met with Detective Willie Scott, who had been assigned to our case. He was a burly man with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. His office was sparse but organized, with case files stacked neatly on his desk. Based on Ms. Torres' phone records, she's been in contact with at least 5 other individuals who've been discussing your family, he explained. We're calling them in for questioning, but I want to be honest with you. This looks like an organized harassment campaign. He showed us a diagram of connected phone numbers, the web of mother-in-law's influence spreading across the page. What can we do? I asked, gently holding Bella on my knee. She played with my necklace, completely oblivious to the serious conversation happening around her. Document everything. Change your routines. Consider a temporary relocation until the trial. His pen tapped against his notepad as he listed options. I shook my head firmly. We're not running again. This is our home. The thought of uprooting our lives once more was unbearable. Detective Scott nodded. Then we'll need to increase security. I can arrange for additional patrols in your neighborhood. Over the next few weeks, we lived in a strange limbo. Mother-in-law remained in custody awaiting trial, but her followers continued their campaign. We received anonymous letters. Strange cars drove by our house. Someone created a website called Free Owen's Grandma, with our photos and address. Each incident was reported, documented, and added to the growing case file. Detective Scott kept us updated on the investigation, which had expanded to include charges of conspiracy and cyberstalking. The good news, he told us during one update, is that most of these people are backing off now that they realize there are legal consequences. Ms. Torres is facing charges of her own for the attempted daycare pickup. His confident tone provided some comfort as we navigated this strange new reality. The trial date was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, we tried to create some normalcy for Bella. She was crawling now, babbling constantly, and showing a definite preference for the stuffed elephant my sister had given her over any of her other toys. Her innocent joy was a reminder of what we were fighting for, her right to grow up free from mother-in-law's toxic influence. One evening, as I was bathing Bella, my husband called me into the living room. Terrence was at our door. I need to talk to you both, he said, his eyes red-rimmed. About Mom. We let him in cautiously. He sat on the edge of our couch, hands clasped tightly together. The tension in his body was visible as he struggled to find the right words. I believed her, he admitted. About Owen. I mean Bella. I thought you guys were doing something wrong, but then I found these. He pulled out a stack of notebooks from his backpack. Mom's journals. She's been writing in them for years. There's stuff about all of us in here. Things she made up. Plans to control us. It's not just about Bella. The notebooks were worn, with pages dog-eared and covered in mother-in-law's distinctive handwriting. I flipped through the nearest journal, my stomach churning at what I read. Pages of detailed fantasies about saving her grandson. Lists of people she'd recruited to her cause. Strategies for turning family members against each other. And most disturbing of all, a detailed plan for kidnapping Bella and taking her across state lines. The methodical nature of her planning was chilling. I never thought she'd go this far, Terrence whispered. I'm sorry, I should have seen it sooner. His shoulders slumped with the weight of his guilt. My husband put a hand on his brother's shoulder. We all missed the signs. She's been manipulating us our whole lives. The simple gesture seemed to break something in Terrence, who covered his face with his hands. We turned the journals over to Detective Scott, who immediately increased the security around our house. These constitute evidence of premeditated kidnapping, he explained. We're adding those charges to the case. His expression was grim as he flipped through the pages, marking certain sections with sticky notes. The weeks leading up to the trial were tense but uneventful. Mother-in-law's network had largely disbanded once the kidnapping plot was revealed. Even her most devoted followers couldn't justify that level of criminality. On the first day of court, we arrived to find a small group of supporters waiting for us. Not just family, but neighbors, daycare, parents, and even Arya from Bella's daycare. Their presence formed a protective circle around us as we walked up the courthouse steps. "We've got your backs," Arya said, giving me a quick hug. "No one messes with our daycare families." Her twins waved from their stroller, oblivious to the significance of the day. The trial itself was brutal. Mother-in-law's lawyer tried to paint her as a concerned grandmother with old-fashioned views who had been misunderstood. But the evidence was overwhelming. The false CPS reports, the doctored photos, the journals detailing her escalating plans, the testimonies from Marcus and Terrence about her lifelong manipulation. Each day in court felt like reliving the nightmare, but with the comfort of knowing it would eventually end. Mother-in-law took the stand in her own defense, maintaining her composure until the prosecutor showed her the journals. The leather-bound book looked small in her hands as she reluctantly opened it. "You wrote here that you plan to take your granddaughter to a deprogramming camp in another state," the prosecutor said. "What did you mean by that?" His voice echoed slightly in the hushed courtroom. "To save him from this transgender nonsense," mother-in-law replied, her voice rising. "Someone had to protect Owen." Her carefully maintained facade began to crack as she defended her actions. "The child's name is Bella," the prosecutor corrected. "And she was born female, correct?" He remained calm, allowing mother-in-law's own words to reveal her delusion. "Doctors make mistakes," mother-in-law insisted, her knuckles white as she gripped the journal. "So you believe you know better than medical professionals, the child's parents, and legal documentation?" The prosecutor's methodical questioning continued, each question tightening the noose. "I know my grandson when I see him," mother-in-law shouted, finally losing control. "They're the ones who are crazy. They're forcing him to be a girl." Her voice rose to a shriek that made several jurors wince. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced mother-in-law to 8 years in prison with mandatory psychological evaluation and treatment. As the bailiff led her away, she looked back at us one last time. There was no remorse in her eyes, only a cold determination that sent chills down my spine. Even in defeat, she remained convinced of her delusion. "It's really over," my husband said as we left the courthouse. But his voice held a question. The bright sunlight outside seemed at odds with the darkness we'd just emerged from. "For now," I replied honestly, "but we'll be ready if she tries anything else." We held a small gathering at our house that evening, just family and close friends celebrating the end of our ordeal. Bella was passed from arms to arms, giggling and showing off her newest trick, waving bye-bye. Her innocent joy was contagious, lightening the mood of everyone present. "She's perfect," my sister said, bouncing Bella on her hip. "And safe." The word safe hung in the air, a promise we could finally believe. Marcus approached me while I was refilling the snack bowls. "I found something else in Mom's things," he said quietly. "Photos of you guys from before, from your wedding, from when you were dating. She cut your face out of all of them." I paused, a chill running through me despite the warm kitchen. How long has she been planning this? The question was rhetorical, but Marcus answered anyway. "I think she's been this way forever," Marcus admitted. "We just didn't see it because it was normal to us. The manipulation, the lies, playing us against each other, that was just Mom being Mom." He helped me arrange crackers on a plate, a simple act of normalcy that felt profound after everything we'd been through. Later that night, after everyone had left and Bella was asleep in her lavender room, my husband and I sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies blink in the summer darkness. The gentle creaking of the swing and the distant sound of crickets created a peaceful backdrop to our conversation. "Do you think she'll ever change?" I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. The night air was warm against my skin as we swayed gently back and forth. "No," he finally said, "but we have." His hand found mine in the darkness, our fingers intertwining as we looked up at the stars.